Good morning and welcome to PPI's webcast series on What's New in 2018 Products. I'm Wendy Finch. I'm the Director of Marketing and Professional Services here at the PPI Group, and today I am joined by not one but two technical specialists. So double the pleasure here. I just got the okay that our audio is working, so excuse me for turning on you there. So I'm here with Curt Egli and Patrick Odhner. They are Revit specialists here at the PPI Group and among other products, but today we're going to be tapping into their Revit expertise. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining the PPI webcast, or as I like to call it, the Wendy Show.
Oh, nice.
Not to try and upstage you or anything, but I do get my 3.5 minutes of fame here on the webinar. So you guys have been doing a lot of work and diving into these 2018 features. What can you just give me a little bit of a summary without doing any spoiler alerts, because we don't want to take away from the shock and awe that we're going to see here in just a few minutes, but we definitely want to just get a summary of your take for this year's release.
Well, for me anyway, it's evolutionary. Revit has been, the programmers have been working on a little bit of something for everyone. Like I noticed in 2017 when it came out, I could just tell Autodesk had thrown a ton of programming bodies at fabrication. And it was a big leap, and we needed that duct, pipe, steel. But I could tell they didn't work as much on some of the other disciplines. This time there's a lot of across-the-board work, you know, from improvements in stairs and railings to multi-point duct routing, for example, on the fabrication side, you know, electric circuits that the electrical folks will love, that sort of thing. So I think there'll be a little bit of something for everybody. We'll show parts, bits and pieces of it too. Some of them that caught our attention.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I think on my end, it's going to be the two words are interoperability and connection between the collection software. And just to add on what Curt is saying, it really is a high level of connectivity between your family elements and also, you know, elements that you would normally put in Navisworks or things like that, you can now actually place in Revit to do a coordination check. And that's a really huge time saver that people, I think, will be really implementing into their workflow.
I think we're seeing through all of the platforms, all of the Autodesk products that for AEC that we represent, the feedback that I'm getting as we're doing these webinars, this whole series, is it's a lot about productivity and saving time. There may not be the huge ooh and ah wow factors over something really cool, but overall the theme that we see Autodesk moving into is that better workflows and productivity.
Yep, definitely.
Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, it is the Wendy Show.
You'll disagree with me off camera, right? You're going, what is she talking about? Okay, so I think we will go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is we'll start with Patrick, and he's going to walk us through architecture and structure.
And structures. Yep.
And then Curt will take it over and walk us through the MEP. So we're going to do just a couple of quick clicks here so I can give the controls to the appropriate people.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Welcome. So we're going to start off here. We are on Revit 2018, believe it or not. This is a great way to, you know, kind of jump in and get started, give you some ideas about maybe, you know, some of your current workflows, maybe implementing some new ideas and new ways of getting your stuff done more efficiently. So I'm going to introduce the architecture enhancements of 2018. It's going to be multi-story stairs and railings. The other thing we're going to go into is platform enhancements. This is kind of the bulk of it, I think, that's going to attract a lot of people. A coordination model, This allows you to integrate your almost 60 file types extensions into your Revit directly. So basically what they've done, they've kind of taken this coordination model tool. It's a little bit of a like a Navisworks Lite, basically. So you're taking, you can take all the models that you get that you would currently put in Navisworks, and you can place them to coordinate in Revit. This is not something to replace Navisworks, but it is kind of an auxiliary or supplementary little auxiliary tool to help you out there for more coordination checks. The other thing is scheduling groups and links, add parameters of groups and links. So now you can actually schedule, there's parameters built in that you can actually schedule RVT links and the groups. And so we'll go into that. A lot of these are going to be hands-on, so I'm going to be showing you a demonstration of most of these, and you'll be able to get a real grasp on what the advantages are here. The next one is global parameters. A little bit of an addition here, and by the way, some of this is going to be maybe a little bit of review because we're covering the 2017.1 and .2 build features. So just in case you missed out on some of those, this will be pretty fresh for you. Getting all excited over here, PPI. Knocking over my dynamo equipment here. So we've got georeferencing. We've got, which is a little add-on to origin to origin and shared coordinates. A lot of that is you can actually see your longitude and latitude now, basically in your Revit file. So very, very useful when you're coordinating between your civil engineers, civil designers, and your Revit building above ground. So really, really good thing there. 3D shapes. Now you're actually able to, do a family, a face-based family, and you can actually face-base when you bring in a 3DM file, a Rhino file, SketchUp, anything like that. You can actually dimension to it, snap to it now, and basically coordinate with that file directly in a native Revit environment. Very powerful for, definitely for architecture and structural engineers for that one. And documentation enhancements, basically they have added some enhancements to the text. So now you can add symbols and things like that. So a lot of the things that you could do in AutoCAD, you can now do in Revit for the documentation text features. And we'll be doing some of that stuff. And then, so right in here, structural design and detailing enhancements, new steel connection types. Basically, this is covering all your steel connection types that were brought over from Advanced Steel. Originally in 2017, I think there were a handful, I think about 30 or 40. Now we're up to over 100 connections, and these are all parametric, beautiful family AISC connections, by code. You can also do code checking, allowable strength design, and LRFD. You can also schedule out what's been code checked and what hasn't been code checked. So it's a pretty powerful feature for structural engineers and designers there. And then we're going to be covering some more add-ons for steel connections, basically switching the priority. Basically, if you click on 3, you probably have fought this for a little bit in the beginning at 17 here using the connections, but you can now actually change the priority of your structural connections, so you can actually avoid some of those nasty little errors or question marks that come up for you. Rebar placement, and I think you're going to see some really cool parametric rebar placement. So a lot of this is varying rebar placement, so you can actually change your adaptive component, which we're going to be using a bridge or a section of a bridge, and we'll change the parameters and actually watch the rebar conform to the change parameter model. So very, very high connection, like we were talking about before. So you don't have to spend time on, these, basically these things that should be kind of automated in a parametric world, and you can actually focus on your design intent. So the last things here is rebar placement and imported concrete elements. I'm just going to go through a few slides, and basically a lot of that is infrastructure, kind of integrating InfraWorks and Revit. So a lot of this is, you've got Navisworks, you've got, Civil 3D, InfraWorks. A lot of these real hot products now are, very, very used very, very well within Revit. So a lot of these programs are actually talking to each other very fluently. So let's get in and start it. So we're going to start in on multi-stairs here. There's a quick little slide here. Basically, we are promoting to provide proactive, connected, outcome-based BIM products. So to increase architecture and engineering design and fabrication through insight and efficiency. You guys already knew that. So multi-story stairs. So this is kind of a little snapshot here. So we're going to attach stairs to levels. The cool thing about this is you can actually take your existing multi-stairs and put them into 2018, and they will respect the new tools. Some of the new tools you actually have to start the project in the actual version to actually take advantage of it. Now you can, for this tool in particular, you can actually take those stairs, say you have a deferred project with had multi-stairs, and then bring that back to life and use, try out this new tool on it. Very great because you can now, which probably people were expecting this in the beginning, but now when you change your levels, your stairs actually follow. Very, very crucial thing when you're doing stair work. So let's get into this, and we'll do a little demo here. I have 2018 open here. This is actually from an older project, so just wanted to tell you that this is working across the board there. So what we're going to do here is go in here, and you can see a little kind of a highlight around. If you cycle tab here, I'm going to click on my stairs, see a little dash line out there? That is your multi-stair there. And basically, you've got all this integrated into one stair. So now it used to be where these dimensional elevations here, they had to be all conforming to the same number for this thing to work. So now I'm just going to give you a little quick demonstration here. Say I want floor 6, and I've got a 3D view over here to the right. I'm going to change this to 65 feet. So we're going to lose a foot there. And what we have is the stairs are still connected, as you can see, and we also did the elevation change. So a really, really nice feature. Also, what you can do here is you can actually tab in and cycle through your tabs and change individual stairs within your set here. So you still actually have, even though you're in multi-stair, you can actually unpin this and then go up and edit the stairs individually. Very powerful tool because not everything is going to be designed like a parking garage. So this will help you tremendously on connectivity of your datums and your stairs there. So I'm actually going to take some of this. The other thing you can do is add levels, and they make it very easy now to add levels and take away levels from multi-stair. So I'm going to hover over the stairs there, and see up here in the ribbon, you've got this connect and disconnect levels. So what I can do here is hit that, and then it brings you into this subcategory menu, and you've got connect and disconnect. So I'm actually going to disconnect the top here, and you see actually it's giving you the available datums that you can actually connect or disconnect appropriates. So you could do a crossing here, and basically I can do the check, and then you've got these stairs, just the 3 levels that you need there. The other thing, you can go back, and if I click that again, cycle through there. Tab is going to be your friend on this one. I'm going to hit connect and disconnect again. And basically, it's going to open up when I hit connect levels this time. It's going to open up the possibilities of what I can connect here. So basically, I'm going to go through here and do this crossing all the way up to, I'll just go up to 6 and 7 again. Check. And you've got that all in one set now. So really, really nice connection there. The other thing is you can actually grab on railings, and I can do this in a 3D view. And before, you can always, I believe you were always able to do this, so I could actually change this, you know, in one setting there, one sitting. So, and also, you know, if you wanted to go the other side there, you can change that. So I've got glass panel, and I'm just going over to the type selector and actually changing my stair type there. So, you know, basically the levels, if they're moving around, again, I can actually take this level and bump that up to 55. And these stairs are conforming to the levels. So a really, really nice thing. Some of these railings right here, you might have to go in there. Got a little message there. Some of these railings, they have cleaned up the railings a little bit, but you might have to go in here and do some touch up to the railings. They've made it now that you can, when you edit path, you can actually see and change the railing actually for all the stairs there. So I can actually move that in on a sketch mode, and then just that section there is taken off, and when I actually hit check, some of that railing should have been taken off there. So a little more, you know, flexibility in railings and stuff like that. We're actually going to go into a little more of railings because now they actually do connect onto surfaces too. So let me bring this back up here. So just to bottom line here, basically, you can move your levels around and you still have connectivity. Your stairs are grouped by level and height, and level heights change within a group. So really nice stuff there. Enhance railings. So add railings to the entire multi-story stair tower. So you can do that, which we kind of just, you know, did before. The other thing is now you can host railings automatically on contours or surfaces. Before on 17, you were actually, they added it in, a really useful tool is you could add it on to retaining walls, not just stairs or treads and stringers. You can actually bring this thing onto just about anything now. So let's give that a shot. We're also going to put this on a topo surface, and I've got one already for us here. And I'm going to go into 3D. And here we have a very simple contour surface made by Revit. You can see that it's very not complicated at all. But basically you can, I suggest, to take advantage of your edit surfaces and adding topography to your model, because you really brings it out and gives it a lot of pizzazz when it actually you see your building with the surrounding earth around it. So I would recommend, at least if you don't keep it in there during the construction documentation, maybe have it in there during the design intent here. So what I'm going to do here is add a stair. We have a platform here, and I'm going to add a stair from the first floor to the second floor here, and go into, close that up here, go into level 1. There you go. And basically we're going to add a simple stair here with a little landing. So I'm going to go from level 1 to level 2. And we're going to move this so we have a good connection there. And then right in here, of course, you've got your railings, and we can add those to the treads or the stringer. So I'm going to go glass panel, add them to the stringer, and connect it. And you're going to get possibly some railing issues. They have improved those railing connections in the past that were kind of, when you go around the corners and things like that, they have kind of cleaned that up so you can see you got a little better connectivity there. The other thing is, what I was going to show you guys is putting railings. I'm going to put a railing on the outside of this retaining wall here. And so how you do that is you go up to Architecture, Railings, and this time we're going to actually sketch a path. So you've also got Place It on Stairs. So we're going to sketch that path. And from here, I'm going to see if I can draw this in here. Go to my top view, turn this around. And I'm going to go for the pick lines. And only when you have varying retaining walls, varying lengths and things like that, you only want to do one railing at a time, because they're going to be, you're going to have to adjust those railings each time. So I'm going to actually do the glass panel for that one, click yes, and then once we go into an ISO view, we can see that our railing is actually going into the retaining wall here. So that's no good unless you actually kind of want that look. But what we do here, the key thing is to detach from host and then pick a new host here, and I'm going to actually pick that wall, and it actually kind of conforms to that retaining wall. And this is actually a spline here, so very nice. Your contractor probably won't like you, but at least you can actually kind of do that and do some pretty you know, organic stuff on your retaining walls and conform to the code there. So I'll just do that one more time over there so you guys can see it. And you can do this in you know, plan view too if you wanted to. I'm going to go to railing, sketch path, and then I can actually draw this in too. And let's actually do this. I kind of like when you grab a piece, you can actually zoom right to it there. And we're going to take this thing and pick new host. There you go. So very nice. A lot, I mean, that would have been a lot of work actually to do that. I think the only alternative you would have would be to create some family out of adaptive components there to make this thing work. So this one is straight across, so I will spare you on that one. One last thing I wanted to show you, on railings, you can attach railings and host them to just about anything. And so what we can do in here is sketch a path. Oops. And I just actually did the surface here, and then all you have to do is pick your new surface, and there you go. You got that nice railing conforming to those contours there. You can use that for, gosh, all sorts of stuff. You can put in your silk fence and around your project, doing staging plans and things like that. So all sorts of uses. One last thing here, and I'm going to just sketch a, I'm going to go into level 2 for this guy. And I'm going to sketch it on this platform up here. So right in here, you can, I'm going to go 1 foot on the offset, chain, and pick lines. And so I can pick these lines. I'm going to take this one out. And there you go. You have your Nice. Let me zoom in here so you guys can actually see this. Nice railing going all around there. So going railing happy here. So really nice. And of course you can go in there in your type selector and change that railing just in a click. You know, so all those AutoCAD people out there, you green with envy, I'm sure. So very, very powerful. All right. So we're going to move on here. Next in line, Revit platform tools. So this is actually very kind of a cool thing here. This is a multidisciplinary enhancements. The coordination model, basically, what you see here on the left is a Revit model, and what you see on the right there, lower right, is actually a coordination from Navisworks. I believe it's NWD, or basically a Navisworks file, and allows any file format supported by Navisworks. So that's a very important thing. So you can bring in anything in here that Navisworks supports. And also you can actually, the cool thing is you can start cutting your sections. That's highly important when you're actually trying to get proportions correct on a design. And so you can actually see all your disciplines with your existing site content and things like that. So let's give this a shot and see how it works. The last thing I wanted to say in here is the rendering quality is only, it's not really a rendering actually, it's only going to be only shading. So if you're thinking you're going to be able to get a nice high photographic rendering out of this, we're not quite there yet. So hopefully the shaded will give you enough. And by the way, it's only a coordination model, so it should be okay. Let's do this. Let's do this. All right. All right, so we are coordination model. And I've tried to load up as many files as I can here to try to save time with load ups and things like that. All right, so here we have a Revit model. We've got some scope boxes. You know, we've got a contour surface here, and we're actually going to bring in a Navisworks file. So how you do this is basically you do the same thing you normally do. You go insert, and now there is a new button here. That's always exciting to see a new button instead of just kind of interfaces kind of scattered around in different places in the same tool. So anyway, this is coordination model. We're going to click on that, and we've got two things here we can kind of take a look at. One is I'm going to bring in actually going to bring in both of these guys. The ice stadium, I'm going to make this relative here. These are path types. So basically when you're sending this out, I recommend always doing relative paths. And that way you can link up, your partner or colleague can link up when they receive files. The other option you have here, and of course since shared coordinates is so kind of popular these days, shared coordinates is another coordination feature that you can do between Revit and AutoCAD or Revit and Revit. A very important thing to keep your files collinear with each other, so everybody is working in the same units and coordinate system there. So right in here, I'm going to go origin to origin, and we're going to see how this loads up here. I'm going to do the ice stadium. Let's see here. Let me reload this. And we have a site plan with this stadium, kind of a funny little view here. But basically we've got our building, our proposed building or existing, and then we, you know, we may have a Navisworks file that has all our disciplines in here. And now you can actually view this in Revit, in the Revit environment. So you don't have to open up Navisworks, go and coordinate that with your BIM manager and all that stuff. So you can just get a sneak peek of how things are going to look, and as a designer it's a very critical thing to have in front of you. So this is incredibly powerful. The other thing is when we cut sections through here, we're going to actually see real live sections. So let's try that out. I'm going to go to our floor plans here. And let's see here, 3D view, oops, floor plans. And we're going to go to, let's see here, working. Let's go to first floor. I'm going to turn off the crop. Let's see here, let me get my view up. One thing about this is you want to also have the same versions too. The other thing is making sure you got the same versions. So I had a plan in here. I'm not able to find it right now, but basically it's, let me try the second floor coordination. Well, let me go to a 3D view again. Let me go to the top view. And basically what I wanted to show is a section, but basically I'm not able to get my floor plan here. Oh, well, okay, we're going to just stick with that then. So let's go down to a 3D view, and unfortunately I'm not able to find that view, but you can cut sections through here and actually see your model come up with the coordination. And so you can do that with any file that takes it into Navisworks or anything like that. So I apologize for that. But basically this here, support absolute relative path types, render using native Navisworks engine. So if I go back to this model here, you'll see down here the shaded. That actually, you can actually put it in shaded and see a lot of that stuff in kind of true view there. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one here. Enhance global parameters. So this is something they've added on to. They already had global parameters. Global parameters, what it is actually, it's taking the family parameters that you would make during family building, and it's taking them and pushing them into the project environment. And so the next movement they did here is they allowed you to do radial dimensions. So this is actually giving you a lot more flexibility. You can also put global parameters within your sketch too, not just outside the sketch. So allow name constraints to be applied to distances and parameters. Define critical hold dimensions and flex label dimensions, and label radii and diameter dimensions. So let's give this a shot, and I'm going to open up. I might go back to this one, see what's happening with that. But in the meantime, let's go back, and we're going to go into global parameters 1. So first off, I just want to kind of show you an example of where you would use global parameters. Right in here, and all these global parameters is functions attached to these labels here, these dimensions. So if you can do a dimension and you're in elevation, you can certainly make a global parameter up here. So we've already got these tested or built. And normally right in here, how you would access these global parameters, since they have a label on them, is you would go to Manage and Global Parameters. And you could see these guys. You can type in numbers in here and flex those that information. So for instance, if I put in a 10 in here, and this is kind of where Dynamo really shines, doing this exponentially faster, but right in here we can flex this by giving that a 10. These windows pop right into shape. So if you have constraints on, around features around these windows, you can actually certainly add these global parameters. And you know what? Let's add a quick one to this window so it actually lines up with these windows here. And so all you have to do is put in an align dimension. Oops. And gotcha. Sometimes in Revit, getting those points is half the battle. So we're going to put that in there. And all you have to do to associate it to an existing global parameter is click on that dimension and then go over here, and we're going to say window 1. And now you've got your windows all aligned. Now the new feature in here, aside from the radii implementation, is you got this little pin here, and you can click on that and it goes right to your global parameters. So very useful, quick, and you can start creating new ones in here. This is very similar to building family building. So if you're used to that, you'll feel right at home with this stuff. So let's go into a radii file, P2. And there's, use these prudently because they are very customizable. They're and they're also very, very helpful tools for design intent. So Revit, of course, I don't have to remind you, needs a higher level of communication between your team here. So it can be a little confusing for people just coming into the Revit world, seeing all these parameters and how they work. So make sure you kind of transfer that knowledge base if you're implementing those parameters on your files there. So everybody kind of understands where things are coming from. So this is the parameter right here, and believe it or not, they did not have radius. Move that. Radius parameters in there, global parameters. So now they've actually added that in there. I can click on my manage global parameters, and basically I could change this R planners. Let's actually get that in sight so you can actually see the change. It's going to be right in this area here. Let me make sure it's on fine and shaded. And we're going to go and change the R planner. So this is 140. We can make this 150 and then apply. And you're going to see this slightly adjust here. Also over here, this is grab that. This is R planners. So we can go back to global, R planners. Did that one already. And I'm going to just change this to 110. You kind of get the point there. That just changed my steps there. Now that's outside the sketch. So if you want to do a parameter inside your sketch, that's totally doable. You can actually click on your outside surface there, edit boundary, and you've got this. You've got this 50 diameter specifying a parameter for this outside. So if I actually go and click check on there, I'm going to go back to my global, and my D patio is referring to this global right there. I'm going to change that to maybe 30 and apply. And you're going to see this thing come in and apply those global parameters. Very, very good for design intent. So you can actually see qualities of your design that maybe you did not see before. So a very helpful thing there. So that is global, a little bit about global parameters there. And if you're, if you want to get into family building or any of that stuff, we do have classes here too that we can help you along with that, or of course we have support and stuff like that. So it's a fun thing to get into, and it can really streamline and supercharge your files there. So let's move on to georeferencing. Okay, so georeferencing, we've already had georeferencing in Revit. We can actually bring in AutoCAD files. We can bring just about anything into Revit that has any type of coordinate system. So basically Revit's not the best at you know, civil coordinate systems and surfaces, things like that. But it does know how to talk back and forth very well. And this is another feature that is enhanced. So you can now see your longitude and latitude in here, coordinate system inside your Revit model. So let's go and see how this thing performs. We go open here. Georef. And I'm going to insert, this is our office building here. And we're kind of just using this as a sample model for across the board here. And so when I actually go insert, I can actually say link CAD, which we were able to do before. And I'm going to link this site file. And this over here, they're not on usually when you turn on a Revit file, but this is your survey point. That's the key one that's actually going to be connected to your shared coordinates. That will shoot off into the georeference location while you're able to conveniently sit in your Revit world, your Revit coordinates with the project internal. So when you get any updates to those files, basically that survey point is that key that's going to help you along with that. So if I actually click on acquire coordinates, because in Revit there's two ways to gain access to those coordinate systems. It's acquire, which is grabbing it, or pushing it, which is publishing. So you can do this. The thing is you have to have it linked or else it's not going to function correctly. And so what I'm going to do right now is georeference this thing. I'm going to go up to manage and coordinates. And I'm going to specify a coordinate at point. Or actually, one more thing here. I got to manage. Let's actually acquire coordinates first. Let's do that. There you go. So now it's actually acquiring. Now we could go through the whole shared coordinates thing. It would take a little bit of time. That's not really in the scope of this. But basically, this thing is now georeferenced, and you've got your longitude and latitude here. And so this is a very useful thing, especially when it's just kind of another level of connectivity that you can see to make sure that give you confidence that your file is actually placed in the right area here. Let's see here. There we go. So I actually clicked on the survey point, and you can see that new thing over here called geolocation. It's got your latitude and your longitude here. Also, of course, your coordinates up here going back to the original georeferenced file. So very, very good thing to have, kind of a universal thing to see that you're in the right coordinate system. So that is that's kind of the enhancements for georeferences there. Okay, and we're moving on to 3D shapes now. I think architects will find this very appreciative. A lot of the time, you're going to do a lot of the expansive advanced geometry in Rhino. It's just the way Rhino is made and designed. It's made for that type of elaborate iterations and articulation on surfaces. So you can bring that in. Before you were actually, you can bring in 3DM files and SATs before too, but now you have a higher level of connectivity by you're able to actually host face-based families on top of surfaces. And let's go in here and check this out a little bit. You can also dimension to edges and surfaces, very, very helpful, especially when you have a hybrid design going on. You don't have to go back to Rhino, export it out into Revit again, and have that kind of quagmire workflow. You can have this thing you know, right at your fingertips, and which will help you on your design here right away. So let's go and try that out. We're actually going to go and open the test file here. Rhino mass. Now I have loaded this 3DM file in here. It takes a little bit of time for Revit to load that in, but basically it comes in. It's not degraded or anything. You've got a nice, beautiful kind of a perforated contour organic surface here, and we're going to go fine and shaded. You get a better idea of what we're looking at, some type of canopy. And let's cut a section through here, and let's see what how this thing performs. So I'm in level 1. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to just add a beam in here real quick. By the way, this all you structure people out there, this AISC 14.1, this is critical that you guys start using this 14.1 to take advantage of all the structural connections and all the other benefits that come with the newer versions. So try to get in the habit of doing the AISC 14.1 shapes in here. And I'm going to add a W shape. And we're going to have this lookup table here. Just a light W10 is fine for this application. Right in here, we're going to go in here, and now remember, these columns were from the 3DM file. And I'm actually able to kind of, I actually drew a reference line in here, and I'm going to just connect. It says none of the objects are visible due to the depth view. So we're going to bring this Z value up. And what we have here is a 3DM file and also your Revit file. And so now let's go in here and cut a section. And here you go. Now we can actually go in here, dimension this aligned, and before you were not able to get that snap right here, but now you're actually able to get that in there. Well, depending on what you're looking for, we can do that. We can also do a linear, which is more for points. Let's go actually just do a total length there of width of your canopy. So, you know, kind of another huge coordination thing, because you can also alleviate a lot of the problems with bidding too now with your 3DM, with your Rhino file intact, all that special beautiful design that Rhino does. Also with the fundamentals of Revit and the powers of scheduling with Revit to really price this thing out and to really get this thing built. So it's kind of taking this thing from the virtual world and really putting some real usable information on this so you can actually build it. All right. So we're going to move along here. The last thing on here I wanted to kind of mention, I won't go into it, but if you have any face-based families, now you can actually place face-based families on top of your articulated shape there. So you can do that, and also it's going into the MEP world too, where you can actually host connectors and things like that. So I'll stay out of the connector zone. That's Curt's specialty. And then we got multidisciplinary enhancements here. So this is a real quick one. I'm actually going to just stay in this file real quick. And I've got a sheet here. I'm going to, of course, the beauty of Revit is, you know, it's kind of the opposite of traditional CAD here. You want to actually kind of doing your sheets last. Let me actually bring in level 2. Get a better, There we go. So you can see actually they come in the window just like it looks like Revit elements. So really quite striking actually. And right now I'm going to actually add some notes, and we're going to do some multidisciplinary document upgrades here. So right in here, we can go annotate text. And this is kind of cool. I'm going to say notes in here. And if you right click, you actually get a new one called symbols. And you can go in here and you've got Greek, you got angle, you got center line. So really, really cool. You don't have to go into your symbols library anymore and get some of this stuff. Now it's just right in the font. Now if it's not working, it means probably because this is font specific. So these fonts have to have specialized symbols applied to each font. So if I right click in here, I can add another symbol. Phi, and then the other thing we can do is go to symbols, and we can also get a character map now. So I can go other down here, and we can bring up the character map. And so this is what I mean by font specific. This is Arial up here, and that is default for Revit. So make sure when you're, talk to your BIM manager and things like that, to make sure that you're bringing in the character map for your, right fonts and things like that. So I can actually bring in any one of these now, and let's bring in some. There you go. Select. What you do to bring it in is there's a little select and then a copy here, and then you paste it right in there, and it comes right in. So really nice feature. Aside from 2017's upgrades to kind of the word processing format and things like that, they're getting better with this text. So hopefully a lot of the time you'll just be linking this from a Excel or linking this from a AutoCAD file or existing notes or something like that. Hopefully you don't have to retype this. So we're going to hit close on here, and there you go. You have your final, close again, oops, final notes here. So that's going to be useful for people looking for special characters and things like that, their documentation. Text rendering of labels is now the same as text notes. So this, like for instance, these guys down here, the phone, the symbols, symbolics, and pictograms, things like that. I believe it's under like wingding. Actually, just like saying that word, wingdings. And yeah, so make sure if it's not coming up with these pictograms, make sure that you're in the right font. So that's something to just be aware of there. And structural design and detailing. So we're going to kind of go through this pretty quickly here. This actually makes it easy. Revit makes you look like a pro actually when they put these in here. So they already put in a few connections from last year, or from this year actually, 2017. So 2018, you're going to look forward to a lot more robust connections that are coming in from your advanced steel. And so this is by no means replacing advanced steel. It is actually adding the bidirectional flow that you do need though. So if you have any custom families that you're building from these connections, these are all compatible with advanced steel. And so when you're bringing it back into advanced steel, all you advanced steel out here, you can create your shop drawings right from that Revit content. So there is no, that's the key, there is no waste of information, there's no redundancy, things like that. And that's where we want to get, one central model there. So two new categories, purlins and cold rolled miscellaneous shapes or connections that conform to those shapes. And we're also looking at a modeling level of detail at 350. And that's actually very exciting. When we get up to that 400, that's almost, we're dealing with shop drawings and things like that. So we're really getting there. It's just going to take another, I don't know, a couple years, I think, to get us there. So let's give this a shot. We're going to go into steel connections here. and I have one set up for us. It's a pretty basic frame here. So the key here is I've added some of these. This is a clip angle. So when I click on there, it is in your type selector. So down here, I'm going to add another connection over here. I have this girder with the bracing here. Now you can actually do tilted columns for this, or you can actually do something called X bracing, which is under the bracing. So these special families, connections, they all work with bracing, and they also work with columns. You want to make sure, though, that these connections are conforming to the AISC 14.1 library. That is the key thing, or it will not work. So let's give this a shot here. We're going to actually go over to connections, and you'll find it right in here under structure. And you can actually click the down arrow there for settings. And these are the available connections in Revit here from Advanced Steel. And you can see all these elaborate looking, beautiful connections. I have these over here that I brought over. I-bracing splice. I've got a bracing, so I'm going to try out some of those. And what you do is you click on, whoops, first you got to go connection. So click your connection. And it's asking you to click on your pieces that are going to be involved here. So I'm going to click on that piece, this piece, and that piece. And then right click and finish selection. And what it's going to do here is it may give you some question marks. This kind of goes into another tool that gives you the versatility of switching the sequence of your connected elements to your connection. I know that's a big one there, but basically if I click on there, I can now move that over to this connection, or I can make this, you know, my two connection. I can move my primary over here and stuff like that. So I can grab on here. Let's make sure this connection, this is generic right now. Let's see if I can, let me try another connection down here. All right, well, we got this one to work. So this is a just one of the features in Revit here that you can, and these are fully copy. You can copy, mirror, any of this stuff. This is fully adjustable. So if you are a designer type and things like that, you feel very comfortable going in here and changing this information, then you can go in here and say modify parameters, and that's all you have to do. Click on there. And this basically could be a class within itself. It's got so much available opportunity in here to get not just a conceptual design, but to get something that's actually going to be have structural integrity by code. So you can go through here and change all these types in here. Now the other cool thing is don't forget about scheduling, because Revit is so powerful in its scheduling. This is only just one view. What we can do is actually go into view and actually create a quantity schedule. And we can now see that we have one for connections. So we can do structural connections there. Now the other thing I was mentioning is we see Revit links. So now you can keep track of your links in a schedule format. Very, very nice thing to have. And also you got your model groups right here. So right now I'm just going to go structural connections. There we go. And bring over some crucial things here. I'm going to say approval status. Sure, I'm going to bring that over. Code checking, definitely. Family and type, yes. Count, sounds good. If you have any cost associated, you can bring in your Excel formulas and bring them right into f of x there. So you can do that. And we're going to hit OK. And there you go. You've got a beautiful schedule of very rudimentary, oops. Oh. let's see here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So there we go. I'm trying to move this out of the way here. See how it says not calculated. So this is the code checking status. This is excellent for engineers getting a grasp on what has been calculated and what not. So if you don't use Revit as a engineering tool, you might want to kind of try to go into that a little bit. I know a lot of people out there in the structural world are using maybe Reza or something like that. If you are using this actually is compatible with Robot, and you can bring this right into Robot, and it's for your displacements and things like that, and you can see actually what's calculated. Now this is a very brief overview for elastic design here, a linear, basically a linear calculation. If you're doing any more like FEM or anything like that, you want to actually do that within the structural program, finite element analysis. So this is just a basic static analysis for you there. Structural connections, I'm just going to go through this real quick here. These are mostly just slides. We've got, this is the connectivity. It used to be where you bring into advanced steel, and advanced steel is very specialized, but I would say if you guys are working strictly with steel out there, fabrication or just design or conceptual, this is an excellent, advanced steel is an excellent tool to have, and if you already have a subscription, it's, you know, I think it's kind of available for you with least or no cost there. So this is totally bidirectional now. So anything you create in Revit, you bring into advanced steel, it comes back over into Revit, and your models are all in sync. So incredible thing there. What they promised maybe 10 years ago is actually really now happening. So structural design enhancements, this is actually the priority thing, which I was having some trouble with. But when you get the right connection, I think it was user error on that one, but if you get the right connection, like this is a gusset plate with angles, and if you find that little air mark, you can move and switch around these points, alpha points, and Revit will start understanding where you actually want this primary connection to be. So you can play around with that. Enhance interoperability between Revit and advanced steel. That's what we were mentioning before with 130 parametric steel connections. We've also got variable rebar replacement. This was a 2017 feature. Basically, you have your adaptive component, you have your rebar, and you move your component adaptive, and your rebar actually follows to all your structural cover settings for your rebar. Excellent. So I would actually, if you're doing high rises, maybe do one floor of modeled reinforcement. And also if you're doing post-tension, you can also use reinforcement for post-tensions and do your strands, things like that. I know there's not a post-tension tool, but in Revit, the more creative you are, the more I think you're going to get out of it, so in the long run. So last thing we have here is structural detailing. This is a lot to do with these shapes that you're going to see, these special design shapes. And again, this is conforming. The reinforcement is conforming around there. Autodesk is making it as easy as possible for you guys to actually put in your reinforcement and model it in there. You know, for instance, you could, if you have a crane on site that's coming in and you're actually doing a foundation for the crane, I would model that in Revit right away and actually send that right, you know, to the rebar fabricator, and you can do all your clearances and everything within Revit and avoid all those problems in the field, or at least most of them. And this is kind of adding on to your structural rebar versatility there. And we are going to hand it over to the MEP expert. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. While we're making the switch over to Curt to walk through or present on the MEP features, I thought maybe we'd just address a couple of questions that have come in.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give Curt access. And so a couple of questions, and this one came in just toward the end of the architecture presentation. And Tracy asks, can you snap to LinkedIn Revit models? and I don't know if you need to know it.
Yeah, you can snap. So if I understand the question correctly, if you have RVT links into your Revit model, you can absolutely snap to them. I think you were able to actually snap to them in previous versions. The biggest advantage of this version is now you can actually bring in your Rhino 3DM files natively into Revit and actually start snapping and continuing your design with the Rhino information.
Okay.
Yeah, and SketchUp too. SketchUp.
She also asked, can you assign parameters
Mm-hmm.
to LinkedIn models?
Yes, absolutely.
And that was
great question.
Yeah, that just came in.
Great question.
During the structure.
Yes, you can. You can bring in and you can actually add parameters to your content that you're bringing in, 3DM and SketchUp and things like that. And if you're doing a lot of conceptual too, for everybody out there, I would suggest using Format too. Format is a great thing. It's web-based. Everything that you do in Format is totally compatible with SketchUp and Revit. So you bring that in and everything comes in as families into your Revit model. So Format is a great way to preserve and capture your conceptual design and carry it through your building life cycle there.
Okay. And one last thing is, I think she was a little bit surprised to hear you referencing Rhino. So do you still see a lot of people, a lot of people using Rhino?
Yeah, from when I was in the industry a couple of years ago, and also just through classes, I'm actually a little surprised about this too. But Rhino seems to be the choice for people. I think because they have all their legacy data in Rhino, and Rhino has been around for a while. They're still supporting and doing a lot of stuff for Rhino. So it's a great program, great program to do your organic shapes and things like that. Revit has the capability too. So if you're perfectly comfortable with Revit's adaptive and generic model mode and families and things like that, then go ahead and keep it native. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Sure.
And we're going to go ahead and turn things over to Curt Egli.
Okay, my screen's up.
It is.
Okay. All right, super. So I just thought I'd go over a few in the MEP and fabrication realm here. One of them that I thought I would highlight is closed loop hydronic analysis here. So Autodesk is starting with pumps, but you'll see where they're going with this when I show you a little bit of that. What we're looking for is to be able to look at the hydronic loop and then monitor and enable the analysis for the pressure drop throughout the network. And while I'm working on this, just be sure that I don't miss it, that I'm working on modeling while the analysis is happening, so I don't have to stop in the middle. Let me head over to Revit here once and work with this. Okay, so here's my building that Patrick was working with as well, and I've got a loop right here. Let me send over to this one so you can see what it looks like in this view. So here's the pump in the corner, and then I've got radiators along the outside edge. So this pump right here, if I open that up in the family editor and take a look at it, we're going to enable this. Here's how you go about it. For the classification right now, it's normally set to none, or this is a new parameter. So I'll set that to pump and tell it that it is a pump. And then on the two connectors here, I'm going to assign the flow configuration to be calculated, and then my loss method as well. So I'll do that to the second connector here with the calculated and the loss method for that. And then I'll turn around and send that back into Revit here. So I'm going to load that back into my project and overwrite the one that was in there. It'll crank for just a little bit with the spinning donut here. It takes about maybe 10 seconds while it does that. I'm going to select the pump and then just quickly look down on the lower left-hand corner of my property palette because you'll see it start to calculate when I do that. after I've enabled the analysis on that. So here, let me get to this. So we're going to head to there. Maybe I'll do this in the 3D one so you can work with it there. This view right here. Okay, working with this. So I'm going to go and tell it that I would like to do calculations on hydronic networks. So I will enable the analysis for the closed loop hydronic piping network. And I say OK to that. And then if I say OK, here's where I need to kind of look fast once I get this selected here. It's processing it. And here we go. Okay, I was too late. That was too fast. Okay. Anyway, for a little time it will say calculated right in these two areas, but the calculated flow and the pressure drop there. Okay, so I was too late to the party. There you got the answer, right? I guess that's good that Revit's that fast. So now with this, let's just take note of this. So calculated flow, take a note. Calculated pressure drop right here, take a note. So with this radiator over here then, I'm going to change the flow on it. So it's 10, set for 10, I pump it up to 22. Now if you look back here at the pump, you can see that the calculated flow has changed already and calculated pressure drop has changed. So let me try the next one over here and pump that one up as well. And go back to the pump. Already the calculated flow and pressure drop have changed. So what we're seeing here are improvements in the scalability of Revit to push the flow and the pressure computation at the equipment so that you can do that closed loop hydronic analysis, and all of this while you're modeling, right? So we don't have to wait for that. Let's go back to the slides. Okay, and show you the next one. The analytical connections on this. Analyze the pipe network without having to complete pipe connectivity. So I'll drop back over to Revit so that you can see what we're talking about. Here's an example of it right here. We haven't quite got to the point during design development here of we're not sure we want to place the equipment. We haven't made a commitment to it yet. And now we have an analytical connection that we can make from like this radiator, for example, and then back to the pipe like that. So what that'll allow us to do is with the analytical connections, we get a relationship between the pipe and the equipment. So, you know, when you're working with main distribution sizing, for example, and you want to get the preliminary flow and model-based head requirements for your pumps, this will help you do that with easy iterations of that. And you can move your equipment around then consequently without having to remodel, and yet you will retain your pipe connectivity for your early analysis, right? So this enables early analysis so that you know, make informed decisions before you invest too much time in tedious connectivity with pipe connections. The next one I wanted to highlight was outside air on spaces and building types. So in the past with Revit, the whole list has been hard-coded, both for building types and for space type. And now I can make my own new ones. And then you'll also see that there are 4 new parameters that have been associated with those as well, or in the hard-coded ones too. So let me go show you that once in Revit. So meanwhile, back in Revit, I'll just leave this view open and go to the, let's see, that'd be under here, the mechanical MEP settings. And building and space type settings here, let's go to that. So the new parameters that you're seeing under building type here, here's the outdoor air and outdoor air changes per hour, and then the outdoor method that we're using right here. Secondly, under space type as well, we have for space type 4 new parameters as well for outdoor air across here, and outdoor air method right here as well for people. So the idea being that this is going to provide a constant mechanism for your air estimates and to be computed and then additionally exported for further analysis by like Energy Plus, for example, and simulation via GBXML, and then Insight 360 as well. So let me make a new one here for you. I'm going to go to building type once and say I'd like to have a new one called mixed use. So you never used to be able to create one of your own. So here's my brand new building type in here. And then I'm going to assign an occupancy schedule to it. Here's what I want for lighting and the lighting schedule. I'll take retail lighting for that. And the power schedule, as I'm fleshing this out, take that. And then CFM, I'll say 10 CFM for that, and per area 0.12 for that. So I can flesh that out myself and fill those out. Now, we've never been able to do that before. So let's take a look at space type as well. So say that I want to have a new space type in here. Instead of the hard-coded list to the left, I want one called gymnasium, and say OK. And the same thing there. You know, I can come in and set the residential lighting or retail lighting, that sort of thing on it as well, including air per person on that. So what you're seeing here with Revit in this vein is an introduction where they've introduced ventilation rates into the building and space types to help support that kind of workflow that you might be up against in the mechanical realm there. And then you can, when you populate those ventilation rates in your spaces, the information will make itself from Revit into Insight 360 for the analysis part of it. Let me go on to another one here with electrical circuit pathway. So something new that they've included that I wanted to highlight in the electrical realm is to be able to do an analysis of voltage drop. Now, I've had this question before when we have in classes, like how is it determining it? Well, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that come into play for the voltage drop, but the circuit pathway you've never been able to see before, let alone modify it. Like, how did they come up with it? Was it diagonal back down, you know, from the 4th floor down to the electrical room on the 1st floor, for example, or in the basement? And let me show you a little bit of that, and then I'll modify the route to align with my own design intent, but then we'll look at the length that changes on the circuit pathway and the voltage drop that's associated with that. So I'll come over to Revit for that, and let's go to electrical lighting. Let me go to that view. Let's be up this way, electrical lighting. 3rd floor, let's go to 3rd floor for this one. Okay, so I'll zoom in just a little closer so you can see this. This light over here, for example, I'm going to tab to its circuit and select it. Now, the electrical room is in the basement or 1st floor, clear underneath this area over here. What kind of length is there between that? Well, let me hit Edit Path. It's a new button in Revit. And it puts me into one of these modes, green check mark, red X, but now I can see the path that it's initially choosing. I've never been able to see that path before, let alone change that. If I select on the path, you can see that up here in the ribbon at the top that it's 200 foot 10 and change with that. So and the voltage drop right now, I'll point it out with my sonar here. The voltage drop is 0.41. So let me edit that a bit. I'm going to take this and put in a new control point in here, and then drag that control point up. I got to go around the mechanical, I mean, in reality, I need to go around this mechanical chase right here. So that means that when they're out in the field, this circuit pathway is actually going to be longer than what initially I was seeing out of the box there. So if I drag this up a little ways like that, now if you look up here in the upper left-hand corner, you're seeing that it has changed from 210 to 218 feet, and the voltage drop, instead of 0.41, it is now 0.45, and so on and so forth. Like I'll just do one last drag here, and then I'll move on. Drag that out like this, and now that one's heading around, and the numbers have increased, and the voltage drop has increased as well. And what we're doing here is giving you calculations, unhampered calculations, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when you're trying to get the computation done. And I think I'll move on with time circumstances here. I'll move on to slope pipe next. I had two more things I wanted to show you, so let me go through those. So here's slope pipe for fabrication elements that I think I'd like to do next. One of the problems that we've had is things not wanting to stay in place when you start changing the slope, both vertically and horizontally. And so I'll show you a little bit of that with part-by-part modeling. So for the next two steps, I just wanted to point out that that I have installed Autodesk Fabrication CAD MEP so that I could get at the services here for fabrication parts. So that's what you're seeing off to the side. And you've seen this in regular Revit, that there's a fabrication part in there. Just probably weren't able to use it without that aspect of it. That can be used on the CAD side, on the AutoCAD side, but they're going leaps and bounds in getting Revit enabled with this as well. So with that, let me choose a view that makes sense here once. Let me go to plumbing piping and go to level 4 for this one. And here I'll work over in this area where the showers are. Okay, so with that, I'll take back to my fabrication parts, and I'm going to work on the plumbing waste lines here, and I will do no hub pipe here, and apply a slope as I work. So I'm going to say slope up, and I'll use this slope right here. And I think I'll start with a product entry of 4 inches and go underneath the floor here with 2'5" underneath the floor. All right, and I'll place in my first length of pipe here, and then another length of pipe here onto the end, and you can see that they're putting in the fittings as we go. And then from there, I'll go ahead over to place a combination here and insert that part right down here, and another one right here. Spin that over, and then maybe another one, a combination double in this area right here. Insert that one in line too. Okay, I got those dropped into place. Let's put just a little bit more of a pipe on these. I'll put in a 1-footer in here on the ends of these. Now you get a little bit of a sense for how the fabrication tools work at the same time here as I'm working, dropping in pipe. And let me head over to a different view so you can see this in 3D once. here's what I've been modeling is in this area right here. Let me put in another fabrication part on this one, a quarter bend. Put that right here. And another one right here, so you can see that. Probably want them to point up. That would probably be a good idea, Curt. There we go. And then drop in another length of pipe on there like that. And it reorients itself to be vertical the way that we want it. Okay. Now with that, I have been working on the pipe here that is right in line with those showers. But if I head over to a different view here, take a look at it from the side, ultimately what happens is, you know, because we're trying to work our way around structure and the like, we end up having to mess with the slope. So, but the problem in the past has been the adjustment of all of these ends up messing up our work that we've tried so hard on. So I'm going to select it and change the slope on that though to where I take a new value and finish. And now it's 1/4 inch to the foot. And they all are locked in place and stay vertical and adjust to line up with the plumbing fixtures. And one last one here before I move on and finish, just to kind of prove a point. Too cool. Okay, great. Let's go back to one more slide I wanted to show you here of routing, multi-point routing for fabrication elements. I wanted to do this a little bit with duct, but I could do this with pipe, I could do this with conduit or other, you know, cable tray and the like, where you can tap in and tee off of fabrication elements while routing. And you'll see the point-to-point modeling that we're able to do now with fabrication. So is it okay that I do maybe one more here?
Yeah, let's do one more and then then we'll wrap up.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me go over to another view for HVAC here. So let me go to the mechanical area for that one. And let's go to level 5 for that. Level 5. Okay, down in this area right here, I'll turn off thin lines once you can see this a little more readily. So with that, I'm going to shift myself over once again with the fabrication selections here to use supplier. And I can exclude which kind of fittings I don't want it to use to better get my design intent going here. And now here's the multi-point routing that I was talking about here. I'll shift that in place, and then I'm not going to even fill in any values because it's going to inherit it for me, and you can see it jumped it up to 13 feet. I think I'm going to come off of this though at 24 by 20. I'll change the size of it, and I'll come out here and come down here and come out here, stay over to here. So it's putting in the bends as I work. Now in the middle of work here, I'm going to bring up the autofill and exclusions and say I don't want the radius bend anymore. So I'm going to exclude that as it works. You see what it did at the last 90 degree that I did. And now if I come up this direction, so say here, and you look back behind, you can see that it's used, I didn't have the radius bend as a choice anymore. Maybe I make another segment here so you get a little bit more of a sense of how it works, like drop that down to a 20 by 18, for example, and come up a little bit farther and then come over. Do you see how that's working? So the other thing I wanted to show you, if I come back to routing here and use, I'm going to use a tube for the next segment over here, and I'll exclude the 45 and the 90 bend on this to tap in or tee off of different elements here. So for example, if I do that from here to here, I get this kind of a solution that comes out. If I wanted to exclude let's exclude the spigot. Here we go. Press saddle and the spigot here, and do that again in this area. We're going to get this kind of result. All right. So once again, what you're seeing here will work for not only the ducts, the fabrication ducts like we're seeing here, but also pipes and electrical containment components to help improve your productivity. And so, we've been going over some of the new improvements in Revit 2018, Patrick and I. Under this new model, the way that Autodesk works, they really don't have to wait around for a new product to come out. If they have something built, if you're under subscription, they can just feed it to you as you go. And I think you've seen this. I just wanted to highlight the fact that Revit 2017 came out about a year ago, and then somewhere along the line, Revit 2017.1 came out, and then somewhere along the lines, Revit 2017.2 came out, because they could start to build in the new improvements as they're ready and ready for prime time, right? So I'll hand that over to you then again, Wendy.
Okay, well, we don't have any immediate questions here, so I think in light of the time and consideration of all the attendees' time, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and so we will have it available first of next week. And I'm thinking as long as it is, we might, sorry for the noise, we're right near the airport, and so the military is running some drills, it sounds like. And so we'll probably chop this up, divide up by the 3 different disciplines and make 3 different videos. So it makes it a little bit easier to consume and share with those who need to see that. Our contact information is up here. Patrick touched on this just a bit in his presentation. If there's something that you want to learn more about, if you need assistance, if it's a project-based challenge that you're having, that's what these guys do, and they do it very, very well. They work with some of the biggest and best firms out there, but that doesn't mean, small business isn't our sweet spot too. So please feel free to reach out to us. Our phone number, our email's out there. You probably got my email because you're getting those marketing emails from me pretty frequently. So feel free to reach back out at us if there's anything we can help you with the topics we talked about today, or any of the brands that you see there on your screen. So again, thank you very much for attending. It's been our pleasure to bring the 2018 features to you, and I thank Curt and Patrick for their time and expertise, and we look forward to seeing you all on the next one. Thanks, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.